Hi, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk to you about song ideas and where we get inspiration from, to build that song that we'd like to write for our church. Um, I refer to it in the handbook as the spark, right? What gives us a spark to inspire us? And so there's many different places where we can get ideas from, but I think the most important one would be from the Word of God, right? As worship leaders, we want to be in our Bibles and, just reading the Word of God daily, getting inspired by the Word of God. So one of the most important books that I've found for song inspirations is reading the Psalms. And there's so many great musical lines that you can find in the Psalms. One of the techniques might be just reading a verse in the Psalms and trying to rephrase it in contemporary language in your own words, and then laying down music to it. So one of the first techniques would be to read a psalm and come up with some key words that you find in the psalm. So I did this example a few days ago, and I started looking at Psalm 46. And I was reading through Psalm 46, and I came across verse 10, which says, "Be still and know that I am God." And that really struck me because of different challenges that I knew were going on with different members of my church congregation, going through some different difficulties. And of course, we all have difficulties in life, and it's easy to get caught up and get anxious, but the Lord just tells us to be still and to lay those cares at His feet. So that was a good reminder to myself to do that, and so I started thinking about that and just playing around musically. So I wanted to try something out, and I decided to play around, and I was just picking a chord. In this case, I'm playing a C chord, capoed on my third fret. And I was just going, "Be still, be still, be still in His peace. Be still, be still. I rest my cares at His feet." Right, so I started off just thinking that and playing around with the idea of being still and just resting at His feet and something that's peaceful. So some of the key words that I saw in the psalm were fortress and strength. Of course, be still, the word still. I saw words like mountains and seas. So I started writing down these words as just kind of ideas to build upon. And thinking to myself, well, the Lord is my fortress. And so I started coming up with that as well, playing around with, I was singing Be Still, rest my cares at His feet, right? And You alone are my fortress. You alone are my strength. Oh, though the mountains fall into the seas, my Lord, my God, rescue me. Right, so, going up in volume, going up in the pitch, my melody line was going up a little bit. It fits for a chorus, right? You want an elevated part of your song to be the chorus where the melody line goes up. You feel the energy go up, right? A little bit more dynamics. And so the main hook there that I was coming up with was though the mountains fall into the sea. And that's something that if I, when I do plan on introducing this song at my church, I'd want to explain that. What does that mean, right? And to me, that the author is telling us, when everything else in the world is just crumbling around you and when things are just falling apart, it feels like, be still, know that He is the Lord and He has you. He's your tower of strength that you can run to when you feel, you just feel anxiety of that kind. So that hook, though the mountains fall into the sea, my Lord, my God, and then I resolve back to the roots. So in this case, from a musical perspective, the chords are just the main, 1, 4, 5, and 6, right? So in the key of C, that's C, F, G, and A minor. And notice I'm capoed, so I'm actually playing this on the 3rd fret. And I did that intentionally because I kind of like the sound at a higher voicing. I could have played it open, right? Down here in first position, but there was something sweeter about playing it up, getting a few higher notes in there, right? So yeah, that's the basic idea behind this song and a basic concept of songwriting ideas. A few other ones. Let's see. There's a song I wrote about the woman at the well in John, the book of John, chapter 4, how Jesus intentionally wants to meet this Samaritan woman at the well. And, he asks her, they talk about getting water, right? Water from the well. And he says to her, he responds to her at one point and says, if you knew who it was that you were talking to, you would ask me for water and I would give you living water. Right? So I started coming up with an idea around just that the Lord is living, He's the living water. It goes like this. Lord, you are the living water. You quench my thirsty soul. Lord, you are the living water. I will thirst no more. And Lord, you are the bread of life. You feed my hungry soul. Lord, you are the bread of life. I will hunger no more. So, this song essentially is related to that whole passage about how the Lord is our living water and also that He is the bread of life. Right? And I'm using, I'm in the key of E in this song, and I'm just going from E to B to C sharp minor. So the 1, 5, and then to the 6 chord. And then a walk down 6, 5, 4. And something else that I'm using is a technique of just the open chords in the key of E. It's pretty nice on a guitar how you can just use a lot of these 5 chords and just move them up and down the neck. So there's an E chord up there. There's an E chord, right? The E major chord here, but you could play it up here. There's a B, a C sharp minor, or D. Right, you're just walking up the neck, and it's a very common chording in worship music. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for listening.